What time is it?
Wow, it's already January. Holy smokes. I gotta get busy. Let's see here. You get these ready? Peter Matuchniak, Babal, Grandval. Okay, I think I'm more or less ready. Okay, so a couple more minutes. Cue the music. Alright, so we are settled in and ready to start the year 2021 with episode 37. Okay, now first of all, the topic for episode 37 is actually what I was going to do for episode 36. However, if you followed episode 36 or some of the other videos I did last year, I actually got on this big quest for Canadian heavy metal, contemporary Canadian heavy metal thing. And so as that went on, I decided my final episode of 2020 was going to be about 12 Canadian heavy metal bands, modern bands, fairly young bands, and that's what I did. So that means that everything I was going to do for December last year got moved over to January this year. And it actually wasn't such a bad thing because there were a couple of late coming things in that I was hoping to get a hold of. Actually, one was a surprise. Yeah, and so actually, had I done it in December, it would have been slightly different. But I'm happy with what I have to present today, so here we go. First of all, we are going to take a look at
All hail the Crimson King, the one is in his hand.
That's a little bit of music from Flaming Row's album, The Pure Shine. Alright, now this album was released on December 10th, 2019 actually, but I managed to get a hold of it early in 2020. Actually, I think it was a bit later than I wanted. This is really an incredible album. Flaming Row's The Pure Shine. This is based on the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I previously got Mirage, a portrayal of figures by Flaming Row, and I thought that is one of the most incredible progressive metal albums I've ever heard. Very much like Arion, but even better. Now that album had a lot of metal in it, but also a lot of acoustic parts. This one here tends to have more acoustic than metal. So yeah, you're going to hear more acoustic guitar, piano, flute, Uilleann pipes, violins, other strings, and so on. But there are still some metal parts in here too. This plays out like an like a movie soundtrack. There are soundtrack moments, there are also classic prog moments and modern prog moments, and it's also like a rock opera because you have people singing different parts, some people singing narration, some people singing character parts. Just like Mirage, A Portrayal of Figures was, this is really an incredible production. What do you want? Now, one interesting thing here is that this is actually a double disc, where one disc is the full production with all the music and the vocals and everything, and then the other disc is just the music. And sometimes you might think, well, you know, the music might be really good, but I kind of want to hear with the lyrics as well. But actually, both discs I find are equally satisfying to listen to. The lyrics, of course, you've got the beautiful voices, you've got the story, and then the music itself is just so incredible. So the other disc has music. Okay, pause for a moment. The cat is telling me... What are you telling me? You telling me something? No, you're just looking at me. Okay, just a moment. I gotta see what the cat wants. Okay, some of the people on here. Of course, there's Merrick Arnold playing keyboards and alto sax. We actually featured him in one of the earlier episodes of Music is a Journey way back episode 5 or 6 or something like that, back in 2018. Then we also have Martin Schnell on here, who does guitar. Really great guitarist as well. And Melanie Mao, who's on vocals. And Martin also appears in 7 Steps to the Green Door along with Merrick Arnold. And then Martin has also been with Frequency Drift recently. I think they were included in the 2018 year-end finale, or was it 2019? I don't remember. And yeah, let's see, what else has he done? He and Melanie, actually, they have an acoustic project together. And the acoustic project they've done, their band anyway, Melanie and Martin, they've got 2 albums previously released. And then last year in 2020, they released 1 album of covers called Through the Decades, featuring covers of Yes, Genesis, Kate Bush, Flying Colours, Metallica, and many others. And then they did a live, not in front of a crowd, it's called the Crowdless Sessions. They did a live recording of some of their different songs anyway, which was released on CD and DVD. So there's a lot to go from there. This album, my favorite track, and actually a track that I have listened to, it's one of my most listened to tracks from last year, and I still enjoy listening to it. This is track 3. It's called Jake's Destiny. I see here it's in 3 parts: The Painted Pictures, A Relentless Pursuit, and 1919 Midworld. This track actually could be an EP on its own, because it has the first song, lovely introduction, the first song, and some beautiful melodies and so on. And then it goes into this incredible instrumental part with flute and Uilleann pipes and guitar. And then it goes into like another part, and then it's like another song comes in. This is the part where Jake actually goes through into another world, through a portal to another world. They tell that story there with different music, more acoustic guitar and piano in here. Again, beautiful music. And then it finally, I think it goes into yet another stage, and then finally comes back to the very beginning again. So really an incredible piece. There's just so much fantastic music on this one track alone. Never mind all the other tracks, which also have fantastic music. So I actually would like to play just a little bit from 2 different parts in this one here, Jake's Destiny. So here we go from Jake's Destiny, The Pure Shine, Flaming Row. Take it away.
As soon as he closes his eyes, the painted pictures come to life. A massive dark tower in the clouds.
Could the sorceress cast iron will break it down?
Next up, I'd like to talk about Band of Rain. Now, I talked about them also in an older episode when I talked about Chris Gill, who I think is basically the main dude behind Band of Rain. But in case I'm wrong, I apologize to any other main dudes. But anyway, Band of Rain released their album Petrichor back in March 30th of last year. And it follows Dust of Stars from 2017, which was the album where I got in to following Band of Rain. And that album really impressed me. I loved it. I've played samples of it on a previous episode. So anyway, I was waiting for Petrichor to come out. And in the meantime, by the way, Chris Gill and Misha Steinbacher worked together on something that was, at first it was going to be a Band of Rain album, and then it got changed into a Gill Steinbacher project. It was called Svengali. I think I featured that at the end of 2019. That was also a really cool album, but it has since become a Band of Rain album. I don't remember the exact reasoning why, but I think there was a reason why they weren't going to call it that, to give a little bit more credit to Misha for all the hard work he did on it. But in the end, they made it a Band of Rain album anyway. Really worth checking out. This one here, Petrichor, so it came out, and I guess you should know Band of Rain do a lot of instrumental tracks. And when they have vocals in the past, they've usually been female vocals. However, for this album here, they brought in vocalist Matthew Corey of the band Emperor Norton. Now, when I first heard him, I thought, what an unusual choice. And Chris explained to me that when he first heard Matthew Corey singing live, he was really surprised at his vocals. But then he thought, I think he would fit in really nicely with Band of Rain's music. Now, my impression too was like, wow, what a unique vocalist. However, after listening to the album a couple of times, I'm really starting to appreciate how his vocals fit in with the music. And it is still Band of Rain's music, of course, but I think because of Matthew Corey's vocals, something is a little bit different and makes this album actually unique compared to some of the other ones I've heard. Okay, let's see here. Who else is on here? Joining Matthew Corey, we also have John Camp of Renaissance on bass. And it looks like we also have Robert Webb from the band England on keyboards. So, wow, there's some pretty heavy cred going on behind this album here. Now, let's see here. Their Bandcamp page describes this album as brand new songs building old English folk tunes with atmosphere and electric rock instruments. Let's see here. Their music has evolved a lot since the earlier albums. Their music, more recently, it's like extended pieces, maybe 6-7 minutes long, and a musical theme motif will come in, and it will kind of gradually build up a bit, and then it will fade out and another theme will come in. There's always, it's not something where you can say, here's 15 seconds of Band of Rain, what do you think? As I probably said before, the last time I featured Band of Rain, you really actually have to hear a few minutes to find out where the track is going. However, this time here we have a vocalist on here, which means that it's a little bit more song-oriented rather than these extended instrumental parts, although they do have longer tracks on here. So I want to pick out something here from Larkspur. Which track is that? From track 3 on here. And I'd like to play you a little bit from Larkspur. So here's Band of Rain with Matthew Corey on vocals, and this is Larkspur. And I'll tell you right now, the next album, their 8th album, is in the works. So if you like what you hear here, want to check them out more, got another album on the way. Okay, here we go. Band of Rain. Ever since Oliver Rusing's Karibow started to gain a lot more attention back around 2014 or so, he's been hard at work putting out almost a new album every year, and as well as having new material, he has also gone back to re-release, remix and re-record and re-release some of the older albums. And there was also an album a couple of years back of songs that didn't actually make it onto the albums but were really good, and he thought, why not put them out as a collection of albums from the recent years, anyway, songs that didn't make it on. Now, early last year, they came out with a double album here called Essence, and this is, let's see, we have essentially acoustic and essentially live. So one disc is Karibow Live, and then the other one is a selection of Karibow songs which have been rearranged and recorded with acoustic instruments. Now, some of the songs lend themselves very well to acoustic. I think there probably wasn't too much arranging necessary, but other songs there, I think a lot more arrangement went on. And one of the most interesting ones here is a song called Ile, where the first half on the acoustic version is all done in vocals only, a cappella. So I just wanted you to hear a little bit of how that has worked out here. Listen to a little bit of Ile.
I'm still looking for influence. I'll take your hand. Take your hand again.
All right, now typically Karibow is a melodic progressive rock band, so you can expect a lot of the songs, if not all of them, have really great, catchy, memorable choruses, melodies that will stick in your head and have you singing while you're driving or in the shower or washing dishes, whatever. So it was actually really cool to hear a lot of these songs, a lot of them, some of my favorites from the different albums, having been redone here. And you know, it's kind of funny because I was narrowing it down to which song to feature, and I was going to pick Primeval, but I was also thinking of Eden. And then on the Karibow Facebook fan page, this kind of came up, this topic, and somebody said, oh, you should do Eden. It's like, yeah, I actually was thinking Primeval, but yeah, anyway, Eden is also really good. It has a very beautiful chorus to it, but in the end, I'm going with Primeval. So this actually goes back to 2014's album Addicted, and this is the acoustic version of Primeval. Give it a listen.
Remember what I said, to leave this place too soon. And there's nothing left, we return to rest. And still I don't believe in evil. And there's nothing else, but I know we're blessed, because our future is primeval. And no
I'd also like to say that in December last year, just around the end of the year anyway, Karibow released their latest album, 3 Times Deeper. And I don't have it yet, but I have ordered it. I was a little bit behind. But anyway, so I'm probably going to talk about that later on in this year. Anyway, let's move on to our next artist. This is Grandval. This is the second album, Descendu sur Terre. My French pronunciation is probably not really fantastic, but I'm doing my best. Anyway, this was released on April 24th, 2020. Second album, the first album, A Ciel Ouvert, came out back in September 2016. Wow, it's been a few years already. I first heard about Grandval because the English guitarist Colin Tench, the late Colin Tench, regrettably the late Colin Tench, anyway, he performed a guest solo on the first album, and because I knew him, I knew about what was going on, and I got Grandval's album. The main dude, the mastermind behind it, is Henri Vaughan. He is a bass player, songwriter, and he goes out and picks some of the great guitarists out there to help out with the music on the albums. So let's see here. That first album also, I should say, it is a rock album with prog leanings, but it also had a very much an I did it myself kind of feel to it, which I thought had gave it a certain charm, which was something I was not used to hearing even among other independent artists. So I liked it for that. And now, with the second album here, I honestly feel that Henri has stepped up the game. This sounds more what? Like, this really sounds like there's been a big improvement anyway. Still, the writing, the singing, the music, and everything is very similar to the first album, but there's just something extra in here. It might be the overall arrangements, or how many instruments are in there, or what they're doing, I don't know, but I just find that this album is a step up quite a bit. So Henri told me that this album is now the second one in a trilogy. The first one, A Ciel Ouvert, is about the sky. Descendu sur Terre, this is Earth. And he said the third album is going to be a little bit different. So Yeah, this just came out last year. I guess it'll be a little bit before we hear the third one, but there will be a third one. Let me see here. The album opens with a song called Exondation, which has a very much a Pink Floyd Shine On You Crazy Diamond feel to the opening. It's not as obvious as, say, Dream Theater's Octavarium or Eloy's, Silent Cries and Mighty Echoes album. Both those really sound like they come from Wish You Were Here. Very much inspired, if not derivative. This one here is similar, but has enough differences, so it doesn't sound exactly like another Wish You Were Here revision. Let's see here. I wanted to say that his music, Henri's music, it covers... There are softer, more delicate parts, and there are more rock-out parts. And there's one song on here in particular. Let me see here. It is La Vie, Pourtant la Vie. That song, exactly as the song title is even formulated, it begins very softly and gently and lightly, and then it goes into this really rock-out instrumental part, and then wraps up again very nicely and gently. So I wanted to play that, but I think because it's in two parts, and because it shows both sides of Grandval's music, I would like you to hear a little bit from the softer part and a little bit from the more proggy rock-out instrumental part. So let's check out La Vie, Pourtant la Vie from Grandval. Here we go.
Comme un cri qui se retient, comme l'éveil d'un autre matin. La vie, pourtant la vie. Caméléon à peau fragile.
All right, that's the soft part, and now, wait for it, this. Okay, if my French pronunciation wasn't bad enough, I am now going to try to read the name of this band with an U, Danish U, and an umlaut over the U. I think it is Rosenkreutz. Anyway, this is a really great band out of Italy. I got their debut album, which was called Back to the Stars. That was released way back in 2014. I think I picked it up about 3 or 4 years ago. Anyway, the follow-up finally came out last year, and actually I had been waiting for it. I know that they were working on it back in 2019. I actually had anticipated a 2019 release. I did say 19, right? 2019 release. However, it didn't come out until March 21st of 2020. Rosenkreutz's sound is... It is very heavily synthesizer, not driven, but there's a powerful synthesizer to the rock guitar. Of course, it has some very strong prog leanings. It is, I guess you could call it crossover, but sometimes I feel that it is just really more on the prog side, whereas other times it gets into just kind of like a powerful synth guitar rock songs with more pop style melodies. Actually, they remind me a lot of a band called Stone Fury, whose second album, their first album was more of a kind of melodic metal sound from the 80s, and then the second album had this almost like pop sound percussion and keyboard, and then these powerful keyboards came in, and then this electric guitar. It was really blew my mind, actually, and I feel there's some similarities there. Now, their first album had a 17-minute plus song on there, the title track Back to the Stars, and that is one of my favorite over 17-minute long songs. It is incredible. The music just keeps going, and the next motif and next motif and next theme and so on. It's really an incredible thing. It's a lot like Genesis's Supper's Ready, but without so many of the slower, spaced out parts. It's a lot of excitement. And there were a couple of other songs on that album I also really liked. And then the other songs were also pretty good. But it was like, I like these ones a lot, and these ones are also good. This album here, I find us a little bit more in between that. There are a couple of songs that I like a lot, but not as much as Back to the Stars. But then the other tracks I also like more than the ones that I didn't like as much on the other album. Does that make any sense? So this is what, okay, now I'm going to have to switch to Italian. Oh, and I don't speak Italian at all, but I think it is Divide e Impera. I only say like spaghetti and macaroni. But anyway, yeah, Divide e Impera. I'm going to go with that. Sorry, Fabio Serra. I'm butchering your language. But okay, anyway, about the album, let's see here. Yeah, just basically this is really exciting. The opening track to this video, when I said cue the music, that is Free Fall, which is the opening track from here. Lots of great stuff, like Aurelia has this killer piano solo. It's very powerful. True Lies is a very, poppy synthesizer type thing. The Collector is, I think it's like 15 minutes long. Very powerful bit. Very powerful track. And let me just see here. Fabio Serra, he says, this album is a true work of passion and love, and I hope that this feeling can reach the listeners. This album is a bit darker than the first, especially on the lyric side, but it reflects our current times and my current mood. So my choice to feature from this album here is track 3, The Candle in the Glass. It's a fantastic song throughout, but the chorus, just, wow. There are mornings I wake up in the morning with this chorus in my head, or it just comes into my head randomly during the day. So let's check out The Candle in the Glass from Rosenkreutz's second album. Here it is. Next up, we have Sonoran Odyssey by Paul Speer. When this album was first released, it landed a respectable 5th place of its debut on the Zone Music Reporter chart. So I talked about Paul way back in episode 9, so if you want a longer detail about Paul's history, a more detail, go back and catch episode 9 later on. But basically, Paul's career goes back to the 1960s when he was playing in a heavy psychedelic band from the Pacific Northwest. He played worked together with David Lanz, keyboardist and pianist back in the 80s and 90s. They got some nominations, won some awards. Basically, from somewhere, I guess, the late 70s or 80s, Paul went into a lot of music production, so he's done a lot of work for a lot of different genres of music as a producer. But music-wise, his music has been more New Age oriented. In 1998, he worked together with Scott Rockenfeld of Queensryche. They did an album called Televoid, and they put together, well, they didn't, digital animation artist put together a video to go along with their music, and it was nominated for a Grammy Award for long form music video for Televoid. You can actually catch that on YouTube if you just search for Televoid. There's lots of stuff for Televoid, but check out Paul Speer and Televoid. You can find that video if you want to watch it. I think it's almost an hour long. Okay, more recently, however, though, last year in 2020, Paul Speer was nominated for a Lifetime Achievement Award by One World Radio, and he received a Lifetime Achievement Award from Who's Who in America. So Sonoran Odyssey, this is 7 tracks. No, it's 10 tracks because there are bonus tracks. Now, basically, the first seven tracks, we're looking at, the first track is called Sunrise. And then after that, there are 2 tracks called Monsoon and Moonrise. And basically, tracks 2 to 7 are just variations of these. We have Monsoon with Thunder. We have Moonrise, the full mix. We have Moonrise, a demo featuring Neptune. This is actually NASA recorded sounds, in quotes, from Neptune. You can actually find this also out there on the internet. So Neptune is a guest. We have Monsoon with no thunder. We have Moonrise with a guitar mix and Moonrise ambient mix. So much of the album is Moonrise and Monsoon. And then the bonus tracks are interesting. Track 8 is Behind the Waterfall, which was originally recorded with David Lance back on an album called Natural States. And that track, or that music actually is particularly fond for me because I used it as music in a multimedia presentation way back in around 1994, where I was showing slides from a hiking trip I did, and when I was showing them more kind of delicate nature scenes, that was the music I chose for that. So Paul has re-recorded it here, and it shows up on Sonoran Odyssey, so it was really cool to hear that again. I still have my David Lance and Paul Speer CDs around here somewhere. Okay. Then we have Venus Rising, and this features Sherry Finzer on flute. That's really cool. In fact, that is the track that I want to feature in the video today. You're going to hear a little bit of Venus Rising. And then the last track is a pretty long one. It's 11.5 minutes. It's Jupiter via NASA. This is really interesting. It is like the soundtrack of, like you're in a small space vessel looking out the window as you are drifting past the face of Jupiter, and you see all the swirling bands of clouds, and it just takes up the entire view, and you're just watching it pass by, the planet slowly rotating and your vessel moving by. Or another image that comes to mind is you are in some submersible deep in the ocean, and you are floating your way through some colossal ancient city, and you are wondering who or what built this and when. It just has that kind of feeling of something incredible and massive, and not immediately threatening, but at the same time, you want to make sure you keep your distance safe. All right, so it's really cool. It also has sound effects of Jupiter as recorded by NASA. But anyway, like I said, I want to feature Venus Rising because I really like the flute playing in this, and you can also hear Paul's guitar and some pretty cool keyboards. This is also one of the more moving type tracks on here. Some of the other ones are a little bit more atmospheric and so on. But anyway, let's check it out. Venus from Paul Speer's Sonoran Odyssey. Well, would you look at the time? I think it's getting a little bit late. This episode's running on for a bit, so why don't we take a break here now, and then let's get back with the last 6 albums a little bit later on. So give me a few days. Hopefully you'll stick around for that one, and we'll see you then. Thanks for watching this far.